All right, guys. So previously you were looking at this question, which was suggesting that we must have implementation of a better public transport network. Hopefully, guys, that question has made sense. Now, guys, we're going to move on to the next set of questions, which are coming from IMAT 2011. So let's look at this question 15. There's some disabled people find it difficult to gain access to some of our older public buildings because the entrances have steps. The problem is most often solved by installing ramps. All public buildings must be accessible to everyone, therefore they must all install ramps. And it says, which of the following identifies the flaw in this argument? So guys, pause the video, give yourself just over a minute, be sure to be back after that, and then we can go through the solution. All right, guys, so welcome back. So remember, what we're going to do here is basically just identify the conclusion firstly, because the reason for that is, remember, guys, is because that would allow us to find the assumption, and the assumption is most of the time going to be your flaw. So clearly you can see the conclusion there, therefore. So basically the conclusion here is basically lies in the whole of the last sentence. All public buildings must be accessible, therefore they must all install ramps, right? And some of the reasons is given on why it must install ramps, because some old buildings are inaccessible to disabled people. But clearly, guys, the assumption is that you're assuming that ramp is the only way to make your building accessible to disabled people. For example, you can have lifts, which might overcome that problem as well. So let's look through the options. Disabled people must have access to all buildings, not just public ones. So all buildings should have ramps. That's just completely random because this paragraph is clearly based on public buildings, so it can't be this. Installing ramps in all public buildings would be extremely expensive. Like, so what if it's extremely expensive? It doesn't negate the fact that there still needs to be for equality purposes. So it can't be this one. It's unreasonable to suggest that disabled should be able to access all public buildings. Again, if anything, ethically speaking, it would be reasonable. And to be honest, adding that doesn't really add anything to the, I wouldn't really consider that as a flaw. So that's why I'll X this one. And the part D, some older public buildings without ramps may be accessible to disabled. That's clear our assumption, isn't it, guys? So that clearly is underlying our assumption, because basically what you're assuming here is that even you're assuming the only way to make it accessible is to have ramps, but some may not have ramps and may still be accessible. So that one we underline nicely. The last one, inaccessible public buildings should be replaced by buildings accessible to all. So that's just stupid, isn't it? Why would you do that? It's clearly giving you an easy solution here, which is just to install some addition which will make it accessible to disabled people. So it can't be this one. So hopefully, guys, you can appreciate that. And D in this case is going to be a winner. D is going to be the correct answer. So hopefully, guys, that has made sense. And as always, we look forward to seeing you in the next video. All right, guys, so welcome back. So previously we were looking at this question, which was insisting that ramps must be installed into all old public buildings to make them accessible to the disabled. Hopefully, guys, that question has made a lot of sense. Now, guys, we're going to move on to question 27. So it says, when mobile phones were introduced, there were concerns about the microwaves produced and the effects that these could have on the brain, given that phones would be held close to the ears when being used. These concerns have been shown to be mistaken, since mobile phones are used for sending text messages far more than for making phone calls. Sending a text message does not require the phone to be anywhere near the brain, so it cannot cause any problems. And which of the following identifies the flaw in this argument? So guys, pause the video, give yourself just over a minute, be sure to be back after that, and then we'll be going through the answer. All right, guys, so welcome back. So essentially what the conclusion is not really black and white clear, so some of the other ones, but it's more or less in the last sentence. So because you mainly use your phone to send text messages, it's basically safe to use a phone despite all this, concern about microwave radiation and stuff it does to the brain. So what's going to essentially be a flaw, right? So let's go through the options. So ignores research showing that microwaves from mobile phones cannot penetrate far enough to reach the brain. So so if anything, if it adds that would, that would further, support the argument, because it will say, it's fine to use a phone, but here we're looking for a flaw, and that doesn't really add anything anyway. So we can cross that out. Ignores evidence suggests that text message is only popular in certain age groups. Again, we're not really concerned with age groups. Neither is this really addressing any age groups. It's just talking in general. So it can't be this one. It does not consider uses of mobile phones other than making phone calls and sending text messages. Again, I mean, think about even other uses. What else do you use your mobile phone for? To play games? That's basically just the same as doing a text message. So that's just nonsense. That doesn't really make sense. Part D, it does not consider other technologies such as wireless internet, which could cause similar problems. Again, that's completely random. Here we're just concerned with mobile phones usage. So it can't be this one. Ignore the possible effects on the mobile phone calls that are made. Yeah, so this is actually quite good, because here, okay, sure, like you use your phone, more to make text messages, but if it's really, really harmful to make that phone call, even making a few phone calls can be still really harmful, right? So this is actually a very good option there in that case. That means E then, guys, in this case is going to be a winner. E is going to be the correct answer. So hopefully, guys, that has made sense. And as always, we look forward to seeing you in the next video. All right, guys, so welcome back. So previously we were looking at this question, which was to do with how mobile phone usage can increase microwave, exposure to the brain and how that's a bad thing. Hopefully, guys, that question has made sense. Now, guys, we're going to move on to the next question, question 33 of the same paper. So it says, over the last 20 years, the number of people, including children, classed as overweight and therefore at risk of serious health problems has risen alarmingly. This trend could be caused by an increase in the amount of people eat or by a decrease in the amount of exercise they take. Most of us exercise less than people did 20 years ago, and the average number of calories consumed per person is now less than it was 20 years ago. So the increase in the number of overweight people is clearly caused by a lack of exercise. Then it says, does the government does not need to worry about trying to change people's diet? Which one of the following identifies the flaw in the argument? So, guys, go through the question, give yourself just over a minute, be sure to back after that, and then we can go through the solution. All right, guys, so let's go through this. So clearly, guys, what we're going to do first is work out what the conclusion is, and that's really evident here because we have a good conclusion indicator here, thus. So you've given a bunch of reasons, thus this is the conclusion. So it's basically saying the government does not need to worry about changing people's diet. So what's the flaw in basically in that statement, right? Given what we've seen before. So some people may exercise more than average. So firstly, that doesn't really link to the conclusion. And secondly, the reason I don't like that one as well is because we're not really concerned about what people we're not really concerned what people the average now. We're concerned about it's saying it was talking about the average 20 years ago. That's what we're more comparing it to. So that's why I don't like this one. Some people may have increased their calorie intake. I think this is actually a good option because it's saying the average number of calories is now less than it was 20 years ago, right? But you can still have people in the upper end. They have they can have really huge calorie intakes, right? And if they have really huge calorie intakes, that means we do need to start focusing on this diet, and that would basically flaw the whole argument, isn't it? And it really links to the conclusion. This one's actually really good. The government may need to worry about the cost to the health service. Again, regardless of the cost, we're not really talking about the cost. We're just talking about the fact that there's a need of implementation of certain things. So it can't be this one. Children may use up more calories through exercise than adults. Again, it doesn't really matter who loses more. The mere fact is that you're gonna lose calories through exercising. So it can't be this. Some individuals may have health problems which cause an increase in weight. Again, it's not really. This is just a completely random sentence that's not really talked about here. It doesn't really link in any way. So that's why it can't be this one. So therefore, guys, hopefully you can understand that B in this case is going to be a winner. B is going to be the correct answer. So hopefully, guys, that has made sense. And as always, we look forward to seeing you in the next video.